The Walt Disney Company CEO Bob Iger's interview with CNBC is continuing to show that the company is bearing poisonous fruits. It was already very obvious that Bob Iger lied his way through most of the interview, but now we're getting even more revelations that he is indeed lying. After he said that the company was trying to stay out of the culture war, we literally get one of the first big promotional pieces for the upcoming The Marvels film, where all the actresses are just wading into identity politics and can't help themselves, clearly wading into the culture war. So Mr. Bob Iger has even more egg on his face. Did he really think he was trying to dupe anyone with this stuff? It's so easy to point out the lies, Bob. But so, just as a refresher, let's go over what Mr. Iger had to say to CNBC's David Faber out there in Idaho. He was asked how he would respond to Florida Governor Ron DeSantis' accusations that the Walt Disney Company is sexualizing children and has become a woke corporation. He said, well, so far what we've said publicly is that we are concerned that he has decided to retaliate against the company for a position the company took on pending legislation in that state. And frankly, the company was within its right, even though I'm not sure it was handled very well. It was within its right to speak up on an issue constitutionally protected, right of free speech, and to retaliate against the company in a way that would be harmful to the business was not something that we could sit back and tolerate. And so we have filed a lawsuit to protect our First Amendment rights there and to protect our business, frankly. So I'm not really going to get into that. We're just going to take that kind of at face value because he goes on and says that he does not want to get the company into any kind of culture war, and that's really what we're focused on here for this video. He says, the other issues that you referenced, the last thing that I want for the company is for the company to be drawn into any culture wars. Let me repeat that. The last thing that I want for the company is for the company to be drawn into any culture wars. So he's very clear about what he's trying to say here. He doesn't want them to be drawn into any culture wars. He goes on and says, we've operated for almost 100 years as a company making product that we actually are proud of in terms of its impact on the world. I joke every once in a while we're there to manufacture fun. He later reiterated saying, I don't really want to engage in the specifics except to say that it's not our goal to be involved in a culture war. Our goal is to continue to tell wonderful stories and have a positive impact on the world. We are a preeminent entertainer in the world, and we're proud of our track record there. The notion that Disney is anyway sexualizing children, quite frankly, is preposterous and inaccurate. So I already addressed that claim. Absolute bunk. Tons of evidence against that. But this time, we're talking about he says it twice here, right? He says, the last thing that I want for the company is for the company to be drawn into any culture wars. And then he says, it's not our goal to be involved in a culture war. So he's very clear that he doesn't want them to be involved in culture war. Well, Entertainment Weekly decided to publish a promo piece for the upcoming The Marvels film where they talk with Teyonah Parris, Brie Larson, Iman Vellani, and the film's director, Nia DaCosta. And so, speaking with Entertainment Weekly, Teyonah Parris, who plays Monica Rambeau in the film, shared, I'm excited that the MCU has 3 lead women, all from very diverse backgrounds, and they're all baddies in their own way. It's going to be really exciting just to see these smart, fun, intelligent, and troubled women find their way. So already promoting this on identity politics, promoting it. It's a story about women. Like, that's what this story is about. It's not about superheroes. It's not about the character of Monica Rambeau. It's not about the character of Captain Marvel. It's not about the character of Kamala Khan. It's about women. Like, that is what she's saying here. It's about women. And then so we get Brie Larson reprising her role as Captain Marvel. Also pushed the whole diversity is our strength messaging that you see everywhere, which is complete and utter bunk. Doesn't make any sense whatsoever. People at each other's throats having different ideas is somehow going to be a strength. Absolutely not. Just ridiculous on face value. The fact that people have fallen for this is just wild. But anyways, Brie Larson said, I understand that feeling of being afraid to let go of control, of being afraid of passing on responsibility to others. You almost want to take on all of the burden yourself. So I think this is an incredible metaphor for learning how to be in a team. It's a very clear example that no one person can do it all. You need all kinds of skill sets, all kinds of people with different viewpoints and different backgrounds in order to save the world. So there you go. There's that diversity is our strength. You need all kinds of people with different viewpoints and different backgrounds in order to save the world. Disagree 100%. As a Christian, do not believe that whatsoever. I believe that you need to convert to Christianity, and being a Christian is a necessity in order to achieve life after death and achieve that beatific vision of heaven. And you don't really achieve that through other viewpoints. Then we have Zaw Ashton. I think she probably has the most on point identity politics, brand messaging, culture war messaging out of everyone. She's also playing the gender swapped Dar Ben in the movie. She said, "It's this all-female sci-fi extravaganza with a woman on the other side of the camera. I felt very moved actually being involved in it. It's not an environment you're often in, a huge budget movie with all these badass women and Samuel L. Jackson. That just doesn't happen." So she's obviously promoting the film based on identity politics, the fact that it is done by all women. And then Samuel L. Jackson just happens to be there, right? And then this might actually be the most subversive comment because it sounds the most sane, but it also is the one that pushes, I think, probably the most evil ideology out there, and that is the ideology of transgenderism. So we had Iman Vellani reprises her role as Miss Marvel in this. She seemed to be the only one to push back on this narrative. Again, as I said, she appeared to falsely buy into the vile ideology of transgenderism that posits that you can change your sex from male to female or female to male, and that males can identify as females and vice versa. Obviously, that is false. It's not true. You cannot do that. It's an impossibility. But this is what she had to say. She said, "We're really lucky because we have such a plethora of female characters with real flaws and real arcs. Time and time again, it's proven that not only do these stories have such a robust fan base, but they sell." Well, that's not true. They do not sell at all. We've seen that with Miss Marvel. Does not sell. Video games doesn't sell. Marvel's Avengers, a failure. The TV show, the worst Disney Plus show that they've aired is Miss Marvel. The Miss Marvel comic book series has been constantly rebooted because of poor sales. Same with the Captain Marvel comic book issue where it's Carol Danvers as Captain Marvel. I don't even know how many times that's been rebooted now. I think it's definitely over a dozen since she stepped into the role of Captain Marvel, which I think is 2011, 2012, around there. Nevertheless, Iman Vellani goes on and says, "Marvel has always championed that idea of finding this idealized version of yourself through their characters, a version of yourself that can fly in space or stop a train with one hand. I think that aspiration to be greater than who you are is such a universal feeling." So that sounds great, right? That actually sounds great, pushing back against a lot of this agenda. But then she says here, regardless of gender identity, and that's the big red flag there. She's actually tacitly approving of this idea that you can identify as a different gender than what you are by saying gender identity, which you cannot. This is transgender ideology here, and that's why this comment is so subversive, because it does sound like, men can see themselves or can see a woman acting heroically and find inspiration from that. A woman can see a man acting heroically and find inspiration from that. A white person can see Luke Cage doing something heroic and find inspiration from that. A black guy can find Captain America doing something inspirational and find something from that. That's what you want. Your mind is kind of already clicking there, but she says this gender identity, and there's no such thing. You are born a certain way. You're born male, you're born female, and you cannot change that. So this is why this is so subversive here, because it's pushing this transgender ideology. And then she concludes saying, "I hope people recognize that and find ways to identify with all of our characters." Again, going back to that idea I just kind of posited, where a man can find something inspirational from what a female character does, or a woman can find something inspirational from what a male character does, etc., etc. But this is what they're doing. Clearly, every single one of them was commenting about culture war issues, and they're promoting this film based on culture war issues, something that Bob Iger says that the company is trying to stay away from. Well, doesn't look like they really are. It looks like they have totally bought in to the marketing, and I just think that shows that Bob Iger literally has no idea what's going on within his own company, and I think shows that he is a poor leader, despite him being renewed, his contract being renewed for another 2 years.